Can you reach him out on a different way, like call him or something? I don't know, man.
No, I don't have his number. But he hasn't read my message since yesterday, so I don't know.
Probably hangover, right?
Yeah, he was in Vegas.
There we go.
And
Day before yesterday, though.
the last message I got from him was, I got way too drunk and I had a pretty rough day.
Guys, do you really expect somebody who was in Vegas 2 days ago to come to a podcast recording? Are you fucking serious?
Hey, it's Citizen Cosmos. We're Serj and Anna, and we still discover Cosmos, but today we will do it with a twist and a Christmas carol.
Hey cosmonauts, and welcome to another episode of Citizen Cosmos. And actually, it's not Citizen Cosmos today. Today it's the first episode of a spin-off podcast that we called Denizen Cosmos, with a special host, Johnny, who is going right now to join us and tell us all about this new, crazy, absolutely amazing idea. Yeah, this is going to be a rumble, guys, so please prepare yourself. Buckle up your seatbelts and, thank Kansas anymore. Johnny, how are you today?
I'm fine, man. We're quite the virgin type on this type of podcasts and talking through podcasts. So I'm going to try and be a good host, but I don't promise that I will be or I will deliver.
Don't be too naughty. Johnny, maybe you can introduce the guests.
Before that, I want to welcome them. Hello, virgins. Well, the discussion and the conversation today is going to revolve about people that had an influence, on me at least, on the ecosystem. And all of them, Masi, Sasha, Joy, who's been invited but he hasn't turned up yet. There are people that actually taught me things in this journey through Cosmos. So today we're going to just have a free conversation, hopefully, and just talk about the ecosystem, the community. And since we're like denizens and people who just, hang around in the Telegram groups, etc., we're going to talk about ordinary stuff. So, Masi, you go ahead and you tell us a few things about yourself first, how you joined the ecosystem, how you found out about Cosmos and all that.
Hi, NJ. So thanks for the intro. Really good to be here. Everyone knows me as Masi in the ecosystem. So basically, I run the SG1 validator currently with my partner Tosh. From Berlin. We're securing many networks in the Cosmos ecosystem. I've been around for around 2 years now. I've been a little bit longer in the space since around end of 2015. Originally got into it with Bitcoin and Ethereum. The early start was quite funny actually. Like a lot of people had this where they originally got introduced to Bitcoin or Ethereum and then just overlooked it or ignored it. And then, later you get another call or another wake up, you dive in deeper. That's how it happened to me. I saw the advantages of blockchain and the potential, obviously. Yeah, then did my research for a few months and explored the space and basically got stuck. There's no way back anymore once you're in it. So yeah, that was my beginning. I mean, we can talk about how I got into Cosmos a little bit later if you guys want. That's another story. And yeah, thanks for the intro.
Hey, thanks. Sasha, your turn.
Awesome. Hello, my name is Sasha Light. I am also in the Telegram group and I roughly enjoy talking and, reading the ideas of others in the ecosystem. I'm not since the start of the blockchain in the business, I would say. I had my first contacts maybe around 2012, 2013, although I was not understanding the potential in terms of investing and how it can unfold. I did quite huge investment in 2018. Was not a very good one. Then I stood back for a while and I got back then into it the beginning of this year, end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. I would say I'm a quite spiritual person and I collected quite many gemstones in New Zealand and Australia, and that shifted my perception of wealth. And because of the presence of the gemstones in my life, I understood to read more about financials, and then I detected the compound interest, and from the compound interest I got then into crypto and the staking yields, and that was what brought me to Cosmos. So I'm highly focused on investing in anything with interest. Yeah, that was my starting point, and since then I'm here.
So you're more like a proof of stake guy than this radical maximalist BTC funds, which is good. I mean, it's the same for me. I myself started back in 2009-10, and just curiosity, reading the white paper from Satoshi. Sorry, I'm making an introduction about myself too. Initially, took a keen interest on basically Bitcoin, and then a little bit on Dogecoin or Doge. I don't know how it's pronounced. Doge, yeah. So I was quite interested in those projects. I kind of like the proof of work and and the mining and all that. But proof of stake is, I think it's superior on several grounds. So I was introduced to Cosmos through some courses that I was doing, trying to enhance my understanding of blockchain. And then I bumped onto Masi and Joy and Sasha, and I got sucked by it. And that's it, really. That's how I came to Cosmos.
I was gonna just say that, well, first of all, Johnny has joined recently Citizen Cosmos as a community advocate. But to be honest, apart from that, I mean, I think I've seen Johnny quite a lot around the ecosystem with quite a lot of different posts, helping, answering people in chats, and doing it just because he's loving Cosmos. And I think it's great. And I think it's because of people like yourselves, guys, who are here today. And I'm not talking just about you, Johnny, sorry. I'm talking about Sasha and Masi and Johnny and Joe especially. I'm not sure why he's not here, who answer other people. This is why the ecosystem, in my opinion, and I've been around a little bit longer than what Sasha has in blockchain, but I think this is what makes the communities, helps them to grow and build those things. And I just want to thank you, all of you guys, that you guys do what you do just because you want to do it and not because somebody is asking you to do it.
That was the reason why I've got so deeply engaged in Cosmos, because I saw this sharing and this spirit from Masi. For example, when I joined for the first time in the beginning of 2020, I had so many questions, and Masi was always there to answer them patiently. Sometimes I will have to ask a second time and he will answer again. So this is how you get sucked into that rabbit hole of Cosmos. And Cosmos has many distinct characteristics. It's an amazing ecosystem. People do not still realize how big and how expansive all this ecosystem is. And I think it's going to explode in 2021. We need to do some Moonboy talk, guys. Sasha, Masi.
I agree with that part about the availability. The best ability is availability. I really like this saying. And being in the community, being in the chats and answering questions, I mean, it's important for all of us. We're active in the ecosystem. There will be new people in the ecosystem which do not have the foundation, the informational foundation that we are at a different stage in the understanding, obviously, and that's what we need to spread. So, this Moonboy thinking is good, but I think we're like a little bit past that. 2017, this was really all about hyping up, even 2018, but I think like the space is going into a more of a legit area now. So people are, it's more about what does the project really bring in terms of value, who's building it, what's being built, and what value does it drive? Is there a real use? Is there a real use case? Are there maybe more than one use case? That's really what I like about Cosmos, because before I got into Cosmos, I explored the space for like several years. And there was really nothing that convinced me 100%. Like obviously Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it, digital gold, digital cash, it's not really digital cash anymore. I think we can all agree on that. But it wants to be, or people frame it to be, a digital gold. We can agree that it was the first mover. It has a really important role in the ecosystem. But besides that, obviously Ethereum, some people want to make the case for Ethereum. Then we had the Oracle hype lately with Chainlink, but there's really only a handful of projects in this space, in my opinion, that really drive value, that really bring value to people and drive things forward. And there's a lot of, I don't want to call them scams, but they're not really moving anything. Maybe they're a speculative vehicle at best, but for me, Cosmos is the first project, and for the last 2 years, my view hasn't changed on this, the first project that really drives inherent value. And I made a tweet today, actually, about how important it is, to interconnect all the siloed blockchains in the ecosystem. We have over 3,000 mainnets in crypto right now, and none of them can really interoperate, share data, share resources among each other. So that's why IBC is so important. That's why Cosmos is so important. And not only IBC, but also the SDK itself. I keep emphasizing that. The SDK is so important because you can spin up, remember the 2017 hype. Everything was about making a token, generate a token, make an ICO. But right now, the new shift is, the new meta basically is spin up your own mainnet. And there's no easier way than to use a Cosmos SDK. A super simple framework to build your own modular blockchain, basically to customize it, to use Tendermint consensus or another consensus, and to interconnect via IBC, to share resources, to share data, to grow. I keep saying it, Cosmos and IBC is the foundation for the new decentralized internet. That's really what it is. And I'm really a little bit shocked, like you said, NJ, like people are sleeping on it, completely sleeping on it. There's never been anything even comparable in the space at this level. There will be a wake-up moment. It always happens, you know, the first year, 2 years, people sleep on it. And then suddenly there's a moment where a lot more people wake up and see a project for what it is. And I think this will change everything.
I totally agree with Masi. And one thing that I cannot stress enough is that what Cosmos offers is not only the sovereignty, the scalability, sustainability, it's the decentralization and the interoperability that's going to take place through implementing IBC. Like Masi said, I do not think there is anything that compares to this. Even Polka, even DOT, is not as decentralized as Cosmos is. So Masi has been screaming about this on Twitter and on the Telegram groups that people are sleeping on Cosmos. Indeed, they do.
I'm not one of those people that likes to put a bad name on Polkadot, really. I think there's going to be more than one winner, and I'm glad there's more interoperability solutions. Obviously, I do not think that Polkadot is on the technical level that Cosmos is, but that's all right. They will find their own path. So I don't want to take away from what they're doing. Both are huge ecosystems with thousands of developers and thousands of projects that are already launched or launching in the future inside the ecosystem. And so I don't want to take away from that, basically.
Sasha, what's your opinion?
I absolutely appreciate when you think of the different projects about the ethos of the project. Like what's the atmosphere between all people and also the core idea of it. And the great thing is most other projects are about their project, their view, and enhancing what they are built for. And Cosmos is the connecting piece. It's the thing which supports all others. It's moving away from competition to cooperation. And that's what's going to succeed in the future, that we connect each other and interoperate and cooperate with each other. And that's why I think there's no other technology which is as amazing as Cosmos in that regard.
Guys, what do you think about the consensus mechanism? I mean, Masi, you mentioned that you can take an SDK and put any consensus engine you want. How about Tendermint? Do you think it's the best one available, the way the proof of stake works on Cosmos?
That's a good question, and that's definitely one that goes a little bit more into the technical side of things. In my opinion, I think this still has to be figured out, basically, because it's not been around that long, Tendermint consensus. One aspect which we discuss a lot with SG1, with our validator, is the governance side, which I think brings a lot of value to Cosmos and to the new networks that are launching and launched a while ago, like the latest one, Akash, for example. You know, they all use this governance aspect of the consensus, which governs your sovereign blockchain. And obviously through governance, once the mainnet is live, you can make adjustments to every aspect of the blockchain. I think this is both the biggest strength, but also could be the biggest weakness. And why I say that is because it's very in the early stages still. There's a lot of possible attack vectors. I'll be quite frank about it. And so this applies to all of the networks. And this really depends, I think the strength of it really will depend on how does the community get involved behind it and how does it develop going forward. So yeah, maybe you have some in-depth questions about the governance itself, for example, which is one big aspect, I think, of the consensus. I might have to add that probably a lot of people don't know that there's not many blockchains in the space right now who even have a governance aspect. There's a lot of networks. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of tokens, yeah? Not a lot of projects even have a mainnet, let alone have a mainnet with decentralized governance. And if they do have decentralized governance, like Cosmos, it's everything on the network is decided by the community, by the holders. So everything's possible, in a good way, but a lot can go wrong as well. So I think we as a community should really keep an eye on this.
Yep, I totally agree. I agree also on the side that the consensus and the way governance works on Cosmos has to stand the test of time. But so far, it seems like it's a great mechanism. I really enjoy it. But as Masi said, it all boils down in the end to how mature is the community and the validator set about the project. And the higher the community involvement, the more the potential for a truly decentralized ecosystem.
I think it's also important to note here that recently we had on the Cosmos Hub the first parameter change via governance, which was actually Joey's proposal together with Eric, who, as far as I understand, helped him to put the proposal together. But it's a great example of where the token holders or the community can influence what is in the consensus and influence the numbers that were set out, that were originally set out. And I think it's a great example of how the communities come together and just changed it.
I was just going to mention that it was proposal number 30 that you just mentioned, which was for the adjustment of block rewards. I think that's the one you're talking about, no?
Yep.
Yeah, so we had really good turnout. Almost 60% of people, of Atom holders voted on it. And it was quite unanimous to go through with this. Yeah, it was great. So since the inception of the Cosmos network, we had 32 proposals, which the community voted on. Some good, some bad, but in the end, consensus is working on the network. Really good, yeah.
Sunny made a nice proposal lately that has passed 3132, and this is adding some elements and value, I believe, to the whole governance mechanism. I don't know how good it is for decentralized validators, and when I say decentralized validators, I mean validators that are not exchanges. So, Masi, I would like both yours and Sasha's opinion on this. Do you think this new proposal is going to help the ecosystem? Is it going to do any good?
To be honest, I do not know them in depth. The thing I know, and what also attracted me to Cosmos, is Sunny. I absolutely believe that everything Sunny is putting out is awesome. Because he is such an amazing person. He's just such an enrichment for the ecosystem. He can just put everything to governance. I vote yes.
Yes, same here.
Yeah, so we had proposal 31, as you mentioned, and proposal 32, which are both proposed by Zika Validator. The one is for the governance, for the splitting of votes, which was proposal 31, and then 32 is for funding of this implementation. And I just looked at the charts right now, like they both already passed, both were approved by the community, and just quick take on it. So what is it about? It's basically about you as an Atom holder have a vote, right, with your Atom. And this proposal was to split votes to basically break down the votes that you have into not only a yes or a no or an abstain or a veto, but, to have each amount of vote. Let's say you have 1,000 Atom that you vote with, that you split this up, 30% yes, 60% no, and so on. So basically, why is this even good? I mean, this could be a big benefit to something like a fund, for example, who manages various addresses and manages Atom for various holders and wants to give each one, not all agree on the same subject. So, you can split the votes and give everyone a vote. So I discussed this with Tosh at SK1, and we basically didn't see any downside to it. In my opinion, it's just a benefit. And on top of it, then we come to proposal 32. I think the funding itself is, I don't know what the proposed amount was, like not even 2,000 Atom for the implementation, which it's around 1 month of dedicated development work. Yeah, I thought that was ridiculously cheap. And I told Tosh, he as a developer was like, how can they even do this? But this comes back to your point, Sasha. It's really incredible. Like Zika I think they're just doing this really for the benefit of the network, and there's no other motivation behind it. It's just like, what can we bring to the community that enhances, that brings value. So it's great.
How about the part of the exchanges? I didn't quite understand this part. So this is going to enable voting on exchanges too, or is it just giving the ability to custodians to split votes?
It really depends on the exchanges, right? Like there's a lot of exchanges that do not even give the atom holders the rights to vote. So they just completely ignore the votes or the governance part. And basically if you stake on an exchange, you don't get any say, right? So this is obviously not good. I don't want to call out any specific exchanges, but some are doing this. It's easier probably for them to just split the vote. Someone can just click one button on the exchange and then they cast the total vote for one address. Like let's say, as an example, Binance has a certain amount of atom. The user comes to the exchange and basically clicks yes, no on a certain proposal, and then Binance can cast one big vote for all the holders. This one voted yes, this one voted no. They put away a split vote and then the thing is done. So it's maybe like for them a workflow facilitation, something that's a little bit easier for them to manage than to go to each holder and be like, okay, this one got 1,000, this one voted yes, this one got you know what I mean? So, but I don't think it's, if the exchange really does not want to join governance, then they will not join governance. That's why I actively try to discourage people from staking on exchanges, because you're not really doing anything for the network, you're not doing anything for governance. So, yeah.
Exactly. We do it on the main channel of Cosmos as well, try to discourage people from basically staking on wallets or exchanges that do not, allow voting and participating through governance, which is the backbone of Cosmos. It's the very reason of its existence. And also,
Indeed.
We do suggest that people try and put their atoms on wallets that provide access to all validators, because some wallets do not. So they have a pre-select list of validators that have probably paid to be in there. And they don't give us access to, for example, SG1. I think Trust Wallet, I'm not sure, Masi, do they have you? Last time I checked.
Yeah, I don't want to specifically go into any wallet providers or how but I'm aware of this issue. That's how our world works. You have certain interests that certain parties have, and then they front run this process. It's kind of a way of protectionism, I guess, or capitalist protectionism, whatever you want to call it. And it's certainly not good, right, for the users, because the users, you want the users to have all the available options. Why are they limited on your service? It's a little bit misleading, but obviously, we should really get on the providers and force them to offer all the options.
I see you're a validator, so you have to be diplomatic about it. So I will ask for Sasha for his opinion.
That's really something which could be improved, to be honest, because I staked with one wallet, which does not allow that I can vote, although I'm not very keen to swap, because then I would have to wait for 21 days. So that's really a thing. I would definitely join another wallet to participate in the governance, although I also do not like to miss out on 21 days interest.
That's a valid point, for sure.
You could redelegate, by the way. You could redelegate.
It's about the private key in that case, what he's talking about. Because
okay.
if you would have to move your private key in that case, which is a little bit, makes it a little bit vulnerable. But yeah, I agree. Redelegation is, but it's more about the provider itself.
Not many people know about the option. In fact, I actually fell into that pit when I first started out with staking, not with Cosmos particularly, but with staking and unbonded, then bonded to another place, and then it took me the whole 21-day cycle instead of just pressing one button and then not losing the 21-day period. It's handy to know that it exists, that option.
Yeah, that's true.
Another question I have is, what do you think is the ideal amount of atoms to own so that you make it to the Mars trip?
What's the ideal amount of atom to be wealthy, or what is the question?
Yeah, to be to be a moon boy,
To be a moon boy.
to reach the moon.
Yeah.
Let's imagine, in the imaginary world.
So Masi, you tell us first.
Yeah, so my view on this is basically, I'm a huge fan of what Sasha already said, compounding interest. And you have to keep in mind as an atom holder or a holder of any proof of stake network in the Cosmos ecosystem, most of the networks, depending on how governance sets it, you have a certain amount of inflation. And this should not be overlooked by people, because let's say you're staking and people are become very happy, especially at the beginning. Oh, I have such big staking rewards. Let's invest them in something else. Let's buy something else. Let's make more money. Let's make more assets. Let's make more value. They're really fooling themselves a little bit, because what you're doing is you're diluting your stake in the network. And what you have to keep in mind is the inflation. And you have to, if you want to keep your stake in the network, or the same amount of stake in the network percentage-wise, you have to compound your interest, and have to do this on a regular basis. Obviously, there is some percentage that's not, let's say you have a 7% right now, the bottom of inflation is 7%. And let's say you make around 9%, 9.5%. With adjusted, it's maybe like 8.5 or whatever. So there's maybe like a 1.5% difference between the inflation and the APY that you make. Then that's your profit, right? The 1.5%. It's not the 8.5% that you get on a daily basis. So if you take out each day your rewards and you're super happy, and you go, and invest something else, and then, I keep getting rewards. Well, the inflation, the amount of coins in the network keep growing on a daily basis, on a block per block basis, actually. And you have to compound it to keep your stake. And this is really important. And I think people that are in the space longer, like all of us, they realize this, and they want to not only keep their stake, they want to increase their stake in the network. So yeah, compounding is super important. I'm going to make more posts about this on social as well, and make a few articles about it, because this is really the best way to grow your wealth.
I think the same, especially when you think long term. Most people, they think about short term, like how to get rich quick. And just statistics show, and the really wealthy people, they grew their wealth over a long period of time. And for that reason, there is like the compounding interest, which is, after a couple of years, it's going exponential. And that's why it's so important to invest in things with an interest and then compound the interest. Because all of this, all crypto and all blockchain technology, and especially Cosmos, is so new in its development, it does not have to be like so much. Because you asked how many atoms you have to go to the Mars. I do not think that it has to be like not even 10,000, not even 5,000 maybe. When you have patience, when you just have patience, stake and compound, like in 30 years, just think about what's going to be in 30 years. Even when we think about our predictions where Atom is going to be, I think like in 30 years, it's going to be like so massive that even what seems like a comparably low amount of 2,500 or up to 5,000 Atom is going to be worth like extremely much.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, guys. Are you saying that my 3.7 atoms is not enough to like make me go to the Maldives for the rest of my life? Is that what you're just trying to say?
Well, look at it in comparison. If you look at something like Ethereum and the price development that it has made since inception, I like to compare it to Ethereum, because I see a lot of similarities, especially the early stages. Obviously, I see a lot more potential in Cosmos, but I'm biased. I mean, with your 3.1 Ethereum, I think you would be quite happy, if you're a small holder.
It's 3.7. Don't underestimate me. Don't underestimate
3.7,
me.
sorry, yeah.
It's like 0.5 centimeters. I mean, atoms.
Can I interrupt? Is it 3.7 or 3.7 thousand?
Unfortunately, it's 3.7. So yeah.
By the way, today, because the price of the atom has shrunk, as in BTC terms, I filled another bag of them. I'm that positive about the potential it has for next year. When we announced this episode, we also asked people to retweet and ask questions. And the first question I come across is, what is Citizen Cosmos? This is for you to answer. I'm waiting for your answer.
It's just crazy projects. Can we just make a point here?
I wasn't prepared for it. I'm going to answer for both me and Anna. I'm going to try and keep it short, get back to the guests, because I think it's more interesting. But the idea was actually Anna's idea originally, and it originated as a podcast that talks not about solely the project that the person does, but the idea was to go into the depth of what motivates the person. Why does he do what he does? just because he earns money, or does he have some kind of values that drive him to do whatever he decides to do? And if he does do it, what brought him to that point? And that kind of really worked well, and we had really, well, let's put it that way, we had much of a more interesting feedback that we expected, and we had way more listeners originally that we expected originally to be ever to listen. And by the way, a fun fact, the first episode of Citizen Cosmos was by chance recorded in Berlin in the office of Cosmos, the GmbH that's there in Full Node. So the first episode was actually recorded there. And not many people know about it. In fact, nobody knows about it until now. Yeah, and then at some point in the summer, I think it was, we started our own validator as well. And we decided to grow Citizen Cosmos into a brand which combines the podcast, the validator, and we do quite a lot of social work as well in terms of like we organize meetups. So we do kind of things like that. We're planning like a hackathon now together with Cosmos. I hope it's going to happen. It's still not confirmed, but I hope it will happen. And yes, so we're trying to make this a small like brand. And the purpose of this brand is to help people dive into what Cosmos is, what is Web3, and in simple terms via communication, podcasting, and so on and so forth, and like compounding interest, helping people to dive into those things without having to read all the technical things, the first step that they should make or can make.
That's nice. But, you know,
Awesome.
I like the opinion of the guests on Citizen Cosmos too.
Yes, please.
Be honest, guys.
It's amazing. That's like the great thing about Cosmos. Everyone is contributing out of like an inner motivation because we know it's so amazing. It's not just about the investment itself to grow our wealth. It's also about the ethos and what Cosmos can really do. I mean, we are talking about like changing the financial system. So just from our hope for a bright future of humanity, supporting Cosmos is the best thing to do. And therefore, everything everyone is doing, especially being so active as launching a podcast and a validator, is just splendid.
Nice. Masi, your turn.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I listened to it since the very first episode, actually. Didn't tell anyone yet, but I actually am because I like the format. I like podcasts in general because, you know, it's easy to follow. It's easy to take it on the go. And I think it's the best source if you want to stay up to date on Cosmos and if you don't have time to scroll through the forums or chats or whatever. So it's a great way to consume Cosmos content. And to stay up to date, learn about new projects in the Cosmos ecosystem. There's so many, actually. It's really, you can't even cover it in one podcast. So this is a great source.
I think you are the very first person who said that you follow us from the very first episode. It's quite cool. Thank you.
Shall we put Masi on the spotlight? What's your favorite episode then?
Maybe, actually, I enjoyed from the very beginning the episodes with validators because, I mean, we always had the idea to launch our own, which we did a few months ago. So I enjoyed the validator podcast that you guys did and tried to listen to how to best go about it. And so that's, you know, went into our decision making, actually. So it benefited us, you know? Yeah, definitely.
Hey, cool.
Yeah, quite cool.
What do you think, Johnny?
Let me pick up my shovel. So I've been working with Sergey for the past few weeks, month plus, and he's one of the loveliest, truly, you know, I mean what I say. He's one of the nicest guys to cooperate with. He's so decentralized in everything. I mean, you know, he's so democratic, and you know, it's really enjoyable. I like the project. I like what he does. I like his ideas. I started using GitHub and just, you know, educating myself on new stuff. But it's really interesting. And also, I think that the podcast is, like Masi and Sasha said, they're a chance to, participate on the ecosystem like Sergey does, but also keep people who follow the project up to date. And this is amazing. And it's doing a very good job on that level. So only good words to say about you.
Thanks, guys. Well, what about predictions? Shall we do some blockchain predictions or some Cosmos-based predictions? Or maybe, what do you think, Johnny? What's your opinion?
I want an atom price prediction for the end of this year and an atom price prediction for the end of next year. Just, press your belly, it's just make a prediction, unless you can back it up by some kind of serious argument. So, Sasha, what's your end of year prediction for 220 and for 221 for atom?
Oh, I'm usually not talking much about that short term because, like short term, it's just impossible to predict. Tomorrow, Tesla could say like, oh, by the way, we are using cryptocurrency to fund our inbuilt software for some reason or something like that, and everything just skyrockets. Like something like that can always happen, like with PayPal when they announced it and everything has risen. So something like this can happen. If it does not happen and Bitcoin crashes like to 14,000, then, oh man, altcoins get wrecked. Therefore, it's not easy to say. I think it will hover around like 4 to 5 as it is now. I do not see any much internal rise happening from Cosmos itself. I think because the devs, as Saki has announced that IBC is coming in January. So I do not think that there's much going on by the end of 2020. 21, it all depends on how Bitcoin is also moving in its cycle. If we think of the cycles it has performed after the past halvings, I think end of the year 21 can be like around its peak. And then with IBC, when it's going to be used quite well with not many bugs, then end of next year, I think it can make 3 digits. Like, I think it's possible.
Nice. That's a bullish prediction. I like this.
And here is my 3.7 atom suddenly started to make sense.
Yeah, indeed. Nice. Thanks, Sasha. Masi, your turn.
Yeah, so in terms of prediction, I have a similar view to Sasha. First of all, the short term is really irrelevant, in my opinion, especially if you're staking on the network, which 71% of all atoms are currently staked in the network. So a lot of people have a long-term approach. In my opinion, in terms of prediction, I think it will depend on the overall cycle that we just started the cycle. Some might say 2 months ago, some might say a few days ago, but Bitcoin is on its way, and which is draining the altcoins, quite obvious. Atom's been drained for around 65 to almost 70% in terms of Bitcoin value in a matter of 4 weeks. So this is quite drastic. But once all these altcoins get drained, and I keep telling people it has nothing to do with Atom itself, all altcoins are getting drained because people are going into Bitcoin, and it really depends on how long this is going to continue. But at some point, Bitcoin is going to exhaust itself, and investors, especially the big funds, they will diversify. They don't see the upside anymore, or one should say there is no upside, and it gets too risky to keep pounding into Bitcoin. So they have to go back into the cheap altcoins, and I think that's the moment when we really will kick off in something like Atom. I don't know when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. In my opinion, it's going to happen in Q1, Q2, something in that area. And that's where I see it a little bit different than Sasha. I do actually think that Atom will make quite a good jump in that range. And I think 3 digits is, if we really go into a similar... As you know, like the cycles, they go in waves, and each bull run, the waves get a little bit bigger. I think we're going to see not only what we saw in 2017, but a much bigger overall market cap, and also alt season. And who knows if it's going to be 3 weeks of alt season or half a year. We've never seen half a year, just straight up bullish. You never know what's going to happen, but I think Cosmos, and I made this prediction 2 years ago, that we will see a similar rise to Ethereum. I still stick to this, and I think low 3 digits is absolutely doable. But I actually think $300 to $700 is somewhere in that range. I think we will see within the next 2 years.
And then the 3.7 atoms of Sergey have real value. So
wait! Don't pull the quilt. I mean, now you have to do the prediction.
I really suck at predictions. This is why I was following Masi's and Sasha's, and I think Masi's predictions and Sasha's views. But Masi's predictions will have come true if we had the IBC ready. But IBC is a massive upgrade. It requires a little more time. And I think that by the end of this year, we will not see much rise. It will rise at some point as we get closer to the implementation of IBC. But I think it's not just IBC, it's what layers of value you build on top of the protocol. The protocol is a protocol. It's a TCP IP of blockchains. It needs stuff to be built on it. And there is stuff being built as we speak. For example, the AMM, which is going to have an impact on Cosmos in general. I think that 2021 is going to be the year that Cosmos shines, and more projects are going to be built on the SDK. And I agree that 3 digits is absolutely doable in 2021, given that Bitcoin does not act crazy and does not have fluctuations.
Think about it this way, NJ. The crazier that Bitcoin acts, the more it's going to flow back into altcoins. If there's no interest for Bitcoin, you will not see a crazy alt season. So in my opinion, it's completely independent from Atom, and even one might even say that it's independent from IBC. Obviously, we're going to get a large boost in confidence from investors when IBC is fully ready and then starts rolling out in terms of adoption. But I think when alt season's here, everything is going to 300% in one day and keep going, and people are going to go nuts, This is going to happen regardless. And you cannot really expect, the space is still a little bit immature in that sense. A lot of people just use cryptos as a speculative medium. So you cannot expect 80% of the blockchain space to know fundamentally what each project does. They see the number goes up and they go in and then they dump and whatever. So I think IBC will give us a huge boost, obviously, but I think it will more depend on the overall macro trend, Bitcoin versus altcoins.
What do you think that's the value that's going to be built on top of Cosmos in the coming years, 2021 on, after IBC is implemented? Sasha, what's your opinion? What are the key developments that are going to drive adoption?
I have to think about that. That's like a big question. Maybe Masi can go first.
Yeah, so in terms of adoption, what is IBC going to enable? I have to circle back first to the Cosmos SDK. So in my opinion, to really drive IBC home, we need to have much more adoption, which is already going great right now. We have over 130 projects built on the Cosmos SDK, live on mainnet, using Tendermint core as well for consensus. But in my opinion, we need to see much more increase in this to really be a top 3 project in the space. Right now, you have amazing projects, obviously using the SDK like Binance Chain, Kava, Terra, Agoric, Thorchain. The list is so long. Yeah, so the adoption of the SDK and everyone that really has the vision to launch their own network or has a business which needs a network, it doesn't even have to be a public network in that sense. It can be a private network, it can be whatever. You can use the Cosmos SDK, you can have your own consensus. It's really modular and easy to build. Everyone can just pick this up with one developer, set up a network. It's basically like building Legos. So I think the most important thing will be the SDK adoption. And then obviously you have a direct modular access to IBC. You can communicate with all the blockchains that have enabled IBC. You can share data, you can share resources. There's so much that you can do once IBC is here, but it's important that we lay the foundation now in the next few months to be ready for IBC. The work is not done. There's so much work to do. And so this is the most important thing right now for adoption.
So like Zaki said, there is a lot of work to be done post the implementation of the protocol. But what do you think that, apart from the adoption of SDK, which is evidently a superior way to build things, what do you think that will give a nudge to the project?
To each individual project or to the Cosmos Hub? Because a lot of people have to separate what comes to the hub. And this is actually something that really needs to be discussed more, is what can drive even more value later to the Cosmos Hub itself. Because what you have to really keep in mind is that a network like, let's just take a random example. Let's say a network like Terra. Terra has its own network, right? They have their own use cases. And usually if a project launches its mainnet and they have a use case or use cases, they have a team behind it, they have a community behind it, they go into this one direction, into their specific direction, into their niche that they're working on. And this niche, the Cosmos Hub still has to find, right? Obviously, one might argue, okay, the Atom is maybe the reserve asset of the ecosystem. A lot of value will drive through it. But there's a lot of things that are being worked on as well, like, for example, automated market making, Cosmos Hub specific decentralized exchanges. I think a lot of this has to come to the hub as well. We have to actively work on the unique competitive advantages of the hub. And this is really important, or it's not going to become obsolete, but you have to put the work in,
Masi, what do you think is the particular characteristic of the hub, of Cosmos Hub, that is going to make it valuable within the ecosystem? What do you think it's very distinct characteristic that will make it be like the main project within the ecosystem? Do you have any idea on this that you want to share?
There's a few avenues that the Cosmos Hub should go into, but it really depends on the governance. Obviously, everything that's decided has to go through governance. But in my opinion, you have to look at it like this. I mean, what's similar to Ethereum, obviously, what is the main purpose of Ethereum? What's going to drive its competitive edge? There's so many things built on Ethereum that you cannot point one specific thing out. I just think that it has to provide a similar role as to Ethereum. You can have Atom as a reserve asset. You can have 1,000 different niche use cases and tools built on the hub to facilitate interactions between the sovereign chains in the ecosystem. But it's limitless. You have to build everything, and something is going to crystallize itself out and be the thing that is a super app, for example. People say it's a super app. It could be anything. But most importantly, we have so many new possibilities now because, you have an interoperable hub, which is scalable, highly scalable, with thousands of developers on it. And you have IBC, and it's limitless.
Could I add something? Yeah. I think the questions you are asking, Johnny, are very important. They are absolutely important, and they are going to be answered. The thing is, one step at a time. And at the moment, the step is to complete IBC. And once this is done, next steps arise with their priority. And then we can focus on them. So thinking about these questions now already is okay to do. And we like to have certainty, although we cannot predict the future. So we do not know how the technology is going to evolve, which things are going to be prioritized in its value. So it's not easy to say it right now.
I agree, Sasha. And this is the last deliverable of the Cosmos white paper is to bring IBC. And I think 99% of the ecosystem of all developers are working on this right now. And this is a top priority. I don't think there's people working on something else as well, but this should be the focus right now. And I keep hearing sometimes in the community from people that are not involved for such a long time that they think that IBC has to come right now and just push it out and bring it already. And this goes on for a few months now. But this is a huge undertaking. This is such a huge step for Cosmos and for the entire space. You can't just do it overnight. It's been worked on for years now, and we want it to be as complete as possible for this ecosystem to succeed.
Exactly. I also think that the upgrade that's upcoming is marking the completion of the 3 layers of the Cosmos stack, and in my opinion, it's the beginning. So it's not the end. It's
exactly
starting now, and these guys worked for all these years, and they have finally delivered, are about to deliver the IBC, which completes the vision of the white paper. So the work has to start now. I was not expecting an answer on what is going to be building value on Atom post IBC, but just some ideas of what could drive. I mean, there was a discussion about shared security, for example, and I think that discussion was quite strongly supported by Sunny as well. So there are various ways with which Cosmos can shine. I think it's a virtue and a vice of Cosmos that it has enabled a sovereign ecosystem of blockchains, which is going quite the opposite way of Ethereum and ERC20s that are dependent in a way on Ethereum. So let's wait and see how it's going to evolve. It's going to be a very interesting year, 2021.
Guys, I think that's really cool answers in terms of that it shows how all of us are not just bullish because we are biased, but there is underlying facts. You, Johnny, mentioned, Masi mentioned, Sasha mentioned. It's all about the biggest value, I think, in my opinion, here is the ability to exchange the data. And that's the killer feature. That's what will bring value. We don't know what it's going to be exactly, but that thing, the ability to exchange, to communicate, that is in itself the biggest value that exists. Guys, I think it's been very interesting, unusual episode for us, definitely. And I will be more than happy, if Johnny, if you carry on with this, and we will make more episodes like this, because I think it's a great way to hear what everybody has to say about what they think about Cosmos, about the future, and about the current development.
I hope you keep on doing this, because one thing I noticed with Cosmos, and I think Masi and Sasha may agree with that, it takes months or years to understand Cosmos, and it takes an equal amount of months or years to explain it. It's massive, and you get sucked by it, and it's so fascinating, it's so interesting. So keep on doing, this. This podcast is important. Bringing not us plebs, but people that but bringing people that are really meaningful to this ecosystem, and of course Masi is one of them. I'm just messing now. And Sasha also, is like an advocate. Sasha always has this sober way, and you can sense it in the way he writes, and you can sense it now by listening to him. So I was very pleased to be with you guys. You are my mentors in Cosmos. So I thank you for joining today.
I want to say also thank you, Serj, Anna, and NJ for having us. And I hope next time Joe is part of the discussion, because he's a huge piece of the ecosystem. And I always appreciate his input as well. He has some great takes and is involved for a long time. And let's get him on the next call, possibly.
Definitely. I like to appreciate all of you as well.
Thank you, guys. It was nice to see you.
I just have a message from Joy. He said, dude, I just woke up. What the fuck?
Guys, it's been once again a huge pleasure, and hopefully we will definitely catch with Joey next time. And thank you, NJ. Thanks, Sasha. Thanks, Masi. Thanks, everyone. And see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. See you.